Dear Boomers, today my controversial statement continues to be how dogs can save your life, and probably cats and different beasts like that. So my dog here, Maso, was born 1 year ago yesterday, and which means that these dogs do live longer, and in 15 years, I will be like 87 or 88, which means I've got to keep my life on the up and up. And he is just a precious soul. I love him. He's a little bit different than most of the dogs I've ever had. We left off the other day talking about Boopy Doopy, who saved our lives because she interjected when the mounted police in Canada were about to search our van. And up in the panels, they were about to get up in the panels and reveal stashes of marijuana and LSD that could have put me in jail for the rest of my life. But she barged in. We had 8 to 10 dogs. They had taken those dogs to a pound, and Boopy was hiding. And when they started going into the van, she whipped out of the woods. She bit the mounted policeman's arm. She went back into the woods, and later on he told us, the caravan hippies on their way to Vancouver to live, that he understood Boopy because he himself trained German Shepherd dogs, and he loved those dogs, and he knew that she was protecting her territory. So fast forward to today's world, we all still have dogs. We have dogs. I have my old dog out in the porch, and she is nearly, heading into her 13th birthday. And then there's dear little Mossy, who is a beautiful Boston Terrier, and he is one of those dogs that hangs with me constantly. I can't, whereas Pearl is independent and stays by herself, this little guy won't let me go, and this is great. I never had that before. Of all the dogs we ever had, they did live their own lives, and he wants me to live his life. So after we were deported from Canada, we went across the United States. We went across from Montana. We went to San Francisco, where we were homeless, living in our vans. And as I state in this book that I'm talking about, called Love of Dog, that Jala and I wrote together, she would send me her letters, Dear Kate, and I would send her letters, Dear Jala. And interestingly enough, we went to San Francisco, and the caravan hippies were despondent, as I said in the book. They were very depressed, and they were unable to rally for any kind of optimistic conversation. Probably too many drugs. Along the way, we had right before we were busted in Canada, we had done Orange Sunshine LSD, and that was the closest I ever came to suicide. We were walking along the ridge of Mount Superior, and it was a beautiful day, but I was not having a good time because I was I wasn't in the flow of what the moment was trying to help me with. The moment, if I had lived in the moment, I would have had a good time. But I looked back, and I was hallucinating camels, and I hallucinated that I was in Egypt, and I wasn't necessarily so depressed that I felt even depressed. I felt like I was sort of separated from myself and was looking at myself from afar. And in that spirit of detached perspective, I thought, I came to the edge of a cliff, and I looked over the cliff. It was a very steep cliff, and I thought, wow, I guess I could jump off this cliff, and that would be the end of my my feeling of uncertainty about this situation. And then I did have a thought about the others who would have had a terrible time for probably the rest of their lives. I did think about that. And then I stepped aside and kept on walking. So I'm sure, I believe there hasn't been a person on earth who hasn't contemplated suicide at one time or another, or at least hasn't contemplated quitting, just quit. And then that spirit of quitting, they do feel as if they've failed, and that can lead to some sort of self-destructive behavior. So we got to San Francisco. It was a little bit of a relief to finally settle. No, we didn't have a home, but then we discovered a house that 2 landlords claimed to own. They claimed to be the landlords of the same house. So we knew that we could probably squat there for a while without having anybody throw us out, because there wasn't one designated landlord, and they could not really, didn't have a leg to stand on in trying to get rid of us. Well, that's the way it worked anyway. They probably did. In this day and age, they probably would have swept in and got rid of us. But we lived on a park called, I think it was Duboce Park. We looked out over the park. There were winos right underneath our windows. They were the happiest people I had ever met. They were happy people. They were all African-American, beautiful black men who were hanging out all day long, drinking wine, and I just came to love them, from afar. I thought, well, I don't know if I should go down and hang out with them, but I did watch them from the window, and I thought, oh, how sweet. I love them. And the dogs we had a lot of dogs in the house, and if anybody wanted to come in and rip us off, well, number one, we didn't have anything, and number two, we had too many dogs to make an act of theft something that would have worked, because they were guard dogs and they would have attacked, unlike Maso. Unlike this guy. Oh dear. So Jala and I did write about that in our book. I think I wrote something very poetic that I will find and read to you. Very poetic about the winos in Duboce Park. We spent a lot of time walking all over the city. I spent a lot of time in Golden Gate Park, and I had somewhat of a tragedy occur to one. Boopie's mother got hit in Golden Gate Park, and her name was Alfie. She, anybody who's Boopie's mother is a sight to be seen. I mean, she was like a mother to all of us. And in some respects, she reminded me of my own mother, because she would sit straight in front of me for hours, ears straight up, staring into my face like, what are you doing with your life? It was unbelievable. I loved her so, so much. And I wanted her to be my mother, really. I wanted her to be my mother. And in some respects, in a deep, deep way, she was. She was my mom. And she was a beautiful mother. She was rescued from the pound, and Jala and Delaney did not know that whether she was a girl or a boy, and they called her Alfie. And then it became apparent that she was a girl. So often we would call her Alfia Lee. Alfia Lee. She was a lovely girl. And then there was Delaney the dog, who was a mighty warrior, but not mean and not aggressive, because when we were in that park, there were a lot of people who did not believe in fixing their dogs. And in fact, the dog Delaney was not fixed either. But he these big dogs would come and try to fight him. And this dog, Delaney, had a dance. He was dancing to fight them off. He never hurt them. He put them down in submission, and then they, in most cases, would leave. So it was Alfie and Delaney, Booba Doop, and then Boopy had some puppies. Alfie had more puppies, and wow, that was a little bit intense. Too many dogs. And in those days, it was easy to go into a supermarket and steal things. I stole dog food for the dogs, stole a few things for ourselves, and like I said, that kind of stuff was not easy even then, and we finally did get busted for that. So I would like you to look at this video right over here and look at some more hippie commune stories, and I will continue telling them because they keep coming to me as I think about them, and we have this book to refresh our memories. Please subscribe. Bye-bye.